Hello, everyone. Welcome to 24 Authors in 12 Hours. And today is National Book Lovers Day. And I'm here with Richard Rogers, who is with RF on his writings to talk about his book, The One. And welcome, Richard, who I want to call Roger.
That's fine. I get called all sorts of things, but yeah, great to be here. And thank you for having me, Amy.
And where are you coming from?
So I live in Wales, in the capital city, Cardiff, and that, in case no one knows, really, is not a suburb of England, but it's a part of the United Kingdom. So Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, and Wales. And Wales is a beautiful principality, just largely rural, with some cities and but beautiful coastline and countryside. Although behind me, if you can see my backdrop, that's actually part of your countryside, because I have a son and daughter-in-law in Virginia. So any prizes for anyone who can guess what that backdrop is? But, there we are.
It looks like Shenandoah Valley.
It is. Can you name the actual point now in Shenandoah Valley where that is?
I cannot name the actual point.
It's Stony Head Trailhead. So yeah,
that is absolutely gorgeous, though.
Yeah.
A little bit of cheating is before I moved here to Gary, Indiana, I was in Virginia, in Arlington, Virginia, for about 8 years.
Yeah.
So wonderful to get to know you. And I definitely want to make sure we are talking about your amazing book, The One. And for those of you who are out there listening, I am putting the link in the chat. And let's go ahead and just kind of give a brief overview of what inspired the story and why now? What is the relevance of the story?
I can't tell you what inspired it, except that I'd written a couple of detective thrillers they're global, but they're also based in Wales. And I wanted a change. So I just went for this, and it was just, I thought I'd try a different genre as well. I wanted to do something fast, so I went for a novella. And I also added to that at the end, I thought I'll try and make this into an audio book, so I recorded it as well. But yeah, that's how it kicked off. I just wanted to try something new, and that really worked, and I enjoyed it, and it was great fun doing it.
So in your writing, and you mentioned that you have other books, and I'm going to share your website here for anybody who wants to follow you, the home of RF Rogers here. Definitely want to make sure that you're checking that out. And I'm assuming you have a newsletter like all authors do.
Yes, you can sign up. Yeah, sign up for the newsletter. Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to get all the latest Welsh news on Welsh detectives, but what has it just inspired your entire writing journey, whether it's this particular book, The One, or writing in general?
So from an early age, I've always been into the creative arts and all sorts. So songwriting, poetry, artwork itself, so watercolors, acrylics, and everything. And so I've always been into all those different areas and just thoroughly enjoyed it. And then in my 20s, I kicked off with prose. And in fact, the book I'm just editing at the moment, that will be out next year, is a fantasy novel that kicked off. It's my first ever story, but it's grown and grown, and now it's into a full-length novel. And that's been great fun doing that. I've always wanted to do it, but so it kicked off in my 20s, but on and off, things come along, difficulties in life, times when you can't do anything, times when you can, then marriage, family, children growing up, and it's a sort of on and off affair, which has always been so, but more recently now I can give a little more time to it, which has been great fun.
And you have a global family. So you've mentioned you live in Wales, and then you've mentioned that your children now, at least one of them, are over there in Virginia. But then you also have a brother in Australia, right?
I've got two brothers in Australia, yes, but one visiting here at the moment. So it's last weekend was my mum's 96th birthday. So so that we had a family reunion. So he's over from Australia. One is over from Australia. The other, he lives in Brisbane. So that's on the Queensland, on the east coast, and then the other is in Darwin, right at the north. And and I've got two sons. One, actually, we're going global, our family. So one son is married to an American, so he's in Virginia. Another son got married just a couple of years ago. He married a South African. So, and they're living just locally. And actually, they've got one cousin, and he's just married a Lithuanian. So we're going every direction at the moment, our family.
You're kind of like the Habsburg dynasty. You guys are like spreading out there, like across.
Yeah, we haven't got the numbers, but we've got the spread. So in your terms, we've got the scope.
There you go.
But not the resources.
Yeah, that's a very funny project management conversation the other day.
Yeah.
And, somebody else was a PM who's on the show later today and commented, and I was like, yeah, like we got all these project managers as well, because I really love the idea that I feel like project management can help you in so many areas, but especially when it comes to being an author. So as an author, do you find that you like structure, that you like to just be a pantser and fly by the seat of your pants, or you kind of hybrid and combine the two techniques?
I started off probably a typical program project manager start, which is over plotting. So yeah, they're very well plotted. They're often got lots of twists and turns, and they often turn out a lot longer than I first expected for that reason, because they often expand anyway. But I think I've moved much more now to character driven, because in the end, you can have great plots and that's great fun, but it's quite dry, and it's the characters that people relate to, and it's real life that people relate to. So the fun of it is putting what you know of real life into exceptional circumstances. And that to me is what makes it. So you might have, various beliefs or opinions on life, but it's fun actually then putting the opposite in and actually challenging all those things and stirring them up, stirring the pot and seeing what happens, and then following that to some extent. So letting it run and trying to be true to those characters that have popped up in your imagination. So yeah, great fun. But yeah.
So let's pull that thread a bit and let's focus on the book, The One, this dystopian fiction, because that's sort of the theme of the show. This go around is these different speculative dystopian. The world's not quite right. So which character or characters did you become the most invested in as you were writing, and where did they take you?
At the core of it, you've got a young boy and girl. So it's a love story, but in very unusual circumstances. So there's a big power struggle going on between the Grand Council, who run the world, and between the outsiders who live beyond, or the unknown who live beyond the wall. So they're the people kept in poverty and working for the Grand Council, but they don't know it, and they're kept like that. But at the center of this is the One, and she is an androgynous youth. So she is kept asexual by being drugged, and she is kept as the god of the people. So a sort of she's kept as an otherworldly being, and never realizing her potential, but being used by the Grand Council to control everyone else as their god. And messages go out through her, and that's how they control the world. And what then happens is one of the unknown beyond the wall then sees through this, and it's a young man called Cezra, and it's a young man called Marker. Sorry, I've got the names muddled up. A young man called Marker, and he sees through this, and he wants to change it because of the tragedy that's happened in his own life. And he then goes on a daring mission to try and uncover and free the One. And in so doing, he starts to fall in love with her, and then it gets more and more complicated and builds to quite a climax. And I suppose for me, one of the interesting things was that it wasn't the ending I expected. So you talked about plotting. You have to let those characters do what's true to them in the end, or what you think is true to life. And it didn't end the way I wanted, or the way I'd expected rather. So it ended the way I wanted, which was true to life. But that often isn't as easy a sell as anything else. We have the difficulties in life, and they came out. So yeah, so it's a fascinating read.
So did you ground this in any current events or any cultural, anything that you read, or is this kind of your own idea that came to you?
Yeah, just my own idea. Obviously, you pull on all sorts of things that you've read in the past, so great novels, etc., but not knowingly. So no, nothing in particular, but it draws on all the main themes in life. You know, the corruption of power, love. I suppose one of the topical themes is sexual identity. So in terms of that, but it doesn't really deal with that issue because it's more someone being manipulated. But you could argue, are some people being manipulated today or led in the wrong direction? It doesn't really deal directly with that, but it does involve the suppression of a young girl's sexuality and then her being challenged to discover who she really is. So yeah.
This just reminded me of I do not remember the culture. I know it's Indonesia, India, someplace in Asia, in that area, where they have these girls that get picked very young to be the chosen ones, and they're kind of worshipped. And then by the time when they hit puberty, they kick them out and they're just done. And so I was like, oh my, like this kind of sounds like very similar. And so it's kind of interesting how life and art imitate each other.
Yes, yeah, always interesting and so necessary actually to challenge everyone's thinking, including my own. You know, but everyone needs challenging in those ways, and that's what a novel can do, or even a song or a poem can move you in a way that just talking doesn't do it, but a story can really enlighten and draw people in. Yeah.
That is a great point. I'm going to put your TikTok link in here. I have to admit to not using TikTok at all. People tell me I should, but I think there's just so much social media and stuff out there. You only have so much time.
Yes.
But I love when I find people using TikTok, because I always think of it as like young, like high schoolers or something, you know. So it's wonderful having people embrace technology and, you know, just really embrace the technology. Let's talk a minute on what you kind of left off at, which is the importance of that connection and how writing can move you. So when people read the book, The One, what do you want people to have the discussion about? What do you want people to take away from that book?
In one sense, it's just on those themes again. So I mean, all you want is to move someone, is to challenge them, is to make them think. Where that takes them is really interesting. Philip Pullman, the author, is a famous author of fantasy novels from Oxford University. And I think it's Oxford, it's either Oxford or Cambridge, one of those two. But he was talking about it, and he said, when I'm writing a novel, I'm the king of that novel. I own that kingdom. Whatever I'm writing about, I own it. When I finished it, I don't own it. It's the reader who owns it. And I don't care what they think as long as they're reading it, and that, you know, it's what they make of it. And I think that's true. I think if you've got good things that inside you that you're writing about, those things are going to come through one way or another. But it's interesting how people read. You know, communication is a funny old thing. We all think we're great at it, but it's very, very difficult to do. And what actually happens is something different comes through to another person. But I think if you're writing from a good place, then good will come of that. But I don't do it for anything in particular, except that I love writing. I really enjoy the creative process. I think it's the way we're made, and it's great to pass that on. And I think it's just a really essential part of life. So, but no particular aim there.
Great. So as an author, you go through this process of writing, and a lot of the authors think, okay, like I'm done. I did the writing. You've published several times now. What has been your journey? What have you learned from the difference of the writing process to the editing, the publishing, the marketing process?
Oh goodness. I mean, so much really. And you just keep on learning as well. So refining the process. I probably learned it wasn't clever to do so many different creative arts. You spread yourself thinly and you're a jack of all trades, master of none. But I focus more in on the prose now. But through it all, I just enjoy the whole process. As it comes together each stage, it's just great fun to feel it. And then you're reading it, and actually you're reading it as a reader then. You've changed from the author into the reader, and you're just enjoying it. So when The One, actually, I had written a few years back, and I just republished it in effect. So I've just published that again. But what I found really intriguing was reading it, just going through to check, can I remember all of the story and the names and things like that, which I did just forget earlier. I got the model up. But it's what was fascinating was I really enjoyed it. I was just reading through it and I thought, actually, this isn't bad. I'm sorry, that's a very British way of putting it, but but I thought I really enjoyed it. So and it was a really pleasant surprise. So I recommend that to anyone. If you've written a novel and you're feeling a bit disparaged in, say, a few years' time, go back and read it, and you may actually be really encouraged.
Now, I think that's an interesting point. I'm a little surprised that you didn't mention the editing process. I think most authors I've interviewed in the past talk about they didn't realize like how brutal and time consuming editing is.
Yes, yeah. And you can't let go of it until I can't let go of it until it's done. So I will go through version after version if I have to, but sometimes it's a lot quicker. I think, again, if you're consistent, if you can just build it up, maybe even, obviously all the people today are writing novels or novellas, but if you're struggling with it, sometimes to write something short and then edit that, and it can actually build up your expertise quicker, and then go back to a novel. And but keep a consistency, because if you go away from it like I do, you have to relearn it again. And I don't intend going away from it again, but there we are. So yeah, that would be my top tip. So
no, that's important. What do you take from your personal experience into your writing?
Well, I suppose there's favorite themes that I have, and one is the conflict between religion and faith. So actually, religion is the man-made construct around. It can be good and it can be absolutely awful, as we know from the news. And but it at its best, it supports really good faith, and at its worst, it becomes corrupt by power and money, and just becomes worse than evil. Really, it's just horrendous. So I really like that, digging down, because often people get the two conflated, and they reject a really important faith because of a really bad religion, and that's a real shame. I mean, it really does bring home the phrase "throwing the baby out with the bathwater." It's a shame. So that's one of the themes that I've been very involved in my own life, and I really enjoy writing about that conflict in a real way, not in a preachy way, not in a sort of trying to ram something down someone else's throat, which you can never do anyway. But I really enjoy that. And then I think the difference between, what is love really? I mean, it's the age-old question, isn't it? What is love? And we've probably all been through the ups and downs of and the trials and the tribulations and the joys and the pleasures, and it's I think, especially I was born in the 60s, and it was just, I mean, I wasn't so involved in it, but the sexual revolution was happening then. So we've had the massive changes in terms of sexuality and how we look at sex in the West, and it's really interesting to see, how the whole culture has swung one way and is now sort of swinging back, saying, "Oh, did we get that right? Was it really freedom, or was it actually exploitation?" And I suppose just what is it is the age-old question of songs, of stories, and just digging down to that in a very real way to try and find out what that is.
Yeah. I love how you brought up your childhood and how we as humans is all those experiences this your entire life that build you, that then helps you to build your world building.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the generation we're living through. There are challenges. Each generation has different challenges. I mean, my mother's generation, it was the Second World War. So you have a completely different outlook, and you go before that, you've got the First World War. You've got and you've got the Great Depressions and all these conflicts. So everyone, and you think of how privileged we are today in the West. The amount of money we have, the amount of that. And yet we have such great issues boiling within us. So money isn't the answer. So what is the answer then? If you've got all this money, it is really, they're the really important questions. And I love those. I really do enjoy that. It's more that I think more, I'm not trying to, I don't want to preach at anyone because no one's going to listen anyway, but it's education. So it's if you've learned something important from life, if you can feed that into your book as just naturally that it's real. If it's not real, it's not worth reading. But if you can do that, you might help someone. There might be someone out there who goes, I read that and I'm feeling a bit better, and I've got a little more hope in my life, and I know which way to go, or I know a little better which way to go. And that to me would be a great outcome. If one person read my book and said that, I would be happy. So.
Well, Richard, I think that's, excuse me, such an important concept. I mean, just the importance of sharing that connection and hoping that that reader is taking a piece away, right? It is amazing how you can read somebody else's words and it impacts you.
Yeah.
I want to share a couple links right now for those in the audience, one of which is this is an author helping author event. So if you are interested in donating or into getting products, we have coffee mugs now, water bottles, etc. So please go ahead, donate, buy some merch, because this is what helps us to keep going. And then I'm going to shamelessly do a plug for my own book, which is available free for the entire day on Kindle download. And ironically, because I did not do things right the way I thought I was, but I feel like everything always happens for a reason, is my books are available on a Kindle countdown for the project manager and the consummate communicator on the UK Kindle sites. So I thought I was setting up for the US site, but you know what? Sometimes you just realize you have to support your global community, right? And I don't know if you know this, but I actually went to University of Liverpool for my second master's degree. And so I definitely have a lot of affiliation there with you guys in the UK, and still cheer for Liverpool. And,
Very
and
good
of course,
side.
the Beatles. And so what have we not talked about that you wanted to talk about today? Because we just have a couple minutes before we wrap up.
I could mention I mentioned the detective novels. So that one other thing that I've done all through my life is poetry, and there's no cost at all. It's on my website. So if you like a little bit of poetry, it's just from this spring 2025. And I just had a bit of fun. I wanted to record it, put it up there and just see what happens. And I haven't advertised it at all yet. So this is the first time, but it's called Alive, and you can just play it there or download it and play it. And it's the subjects range from being alone and actually finding loneliness and not being alone. There's a poem about miscarriage. So this is all sounding very depressing at the moment, but then there's one about about a couple going through a miscarriage and how they handle that. But another is about a queen bumblebee caught in a web in a garage. That was in spring. There's a bit about Easter and how far God reaches down to show his love for us. And there was one other, which is Alive, the headline poem. And that's about, have you ever been where, as a young person, as a child, you're lying in the grass, just looking up at the clouds, watching them go by, and it's timeless. The time doesn't mean a thing to you then. And it's all about that timelessness and just the wonder of childhood. So it's a whole complete ragbag of poems. And that's up there. So take a look if you're into that sort of thing.
Great. And just a reminder that Richard's socials, as well as his website, is here in the comments. And Richard, I really just want to thank you for your time today. I know that you have had this busy celebration with your brother in town, with your mom, 96 years old. Once again, congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
Such an inspiration to just live a long and fulfilling life. So I want to thank you. And any last words to our audience?
Well, just thanks to you, Amy, for hosting this. It's been a real pleasure being there. And I just wish everyone well with their books. I hope it goes well for you. You get a lot of grip from this, and people buying in and leaving reviews for you. And just wish you well on this. Here it's a blustery, sunny afternoon, about 70 plus degrees, which is unusual for us. We've actually got a warm summer, but wishing you well on stateside.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to leave with one last thing. If you ever want to do anything for an author, Hey, what should I get this author for Christmas? Leave a review. That's what they want. They want a review on Goodreads. They want a review on Amazon. This is what helps the author community go around. So leave a review. You can never go wrong with a review. So have a great day, and we'll see everybody in a few minutes with our next author.
Thank you. Bye.